Did you read tarot for skeptics or atheists or people that have no spiritual inclination whatsoever? And for me, I say yes, absolutely. I've been a tarot reader for over a decade, and some of my favorite and longest standing clients are skeptics and atheists. And tarot can be adapted to fit anybody, to fit any belief. It is very broad and flexible. And today I want to talk about how I adjust my reading style to accommodate people that have different beliefs than me. Now, first and foremost, I think it's really important, if you're going to read tarot for other people, to respect other people's beliefs. It is not our job to change people's minds. It's not our job to preach about our ideas or our beliefs. If you are a tarot reader and you're reading for a skeptic, the first thing that you have to do is to accept who they are and to respect them. It's really important to respect their beliefs and not to try to prove to them that they're wrong or convince them otherwise. If people want to subscribe to a spiritual ideology, they have to do that on their own. They have to come to those conclusions on their own. It's not for us to judge or force our other beliefs onto people. If someone comes to you for a tarot reading and they're a skeptic or an atheist, or they just want to experience a tarot reading in a very pragmatic way, then we should honor and respect that instead of trying to debate beliefs. So for me, when I get atheists or skeptics who come for a tarot reading, the first thing I do is I adjust my language. So instead of saying things like prediction, I will use words like potential or forecast or possibility. Instead of using things like this is what I see or this is what the cards indicate, I will use words like hypothetical or let's brainstorm about this, or what are some strategic possibilities that we can explore. For me, when I read for a skeptic or an atheist, the questions that I focus on are very pragmatic and they're more grounded in like foundational reality. What I mean by that is we don't talk about their spiritual journey. I don't talk about, esoteric symbolism. I don't talk about those things because that would be disrespectful for my client. What I tend to talk about or focus on is like pragmatic, real world problems, and I treat the tarot reading like an intellectual exercise for them to engage in creative problem solving. An example would be, a woman comes to me and she's at a crossroads in her career, and she's got 3 potential paths that she can choose, and they all have pros and cons, and she's wanting to come to a tarot reading to engage her mind in creative problem solving, to explore and have like an in-depth intellectual exercise on what those potential outcomes could be in a hypothetical way, in an intellectual way. I find that for my skeptic or my atheist clients, that is where they find the most value in tarot. It's not about do you believe or not believe, but they come to it because when we are faced with a problem or a challenge in our life, it can be very stimulating to have a conversation with someone who challenges the status quo, who challenges our point of view. And the cards will naturally do that because they're randomized. They come out in an unpredictable way. And so what I find is I have a lot of very intellectual, challenging, brainstorming, strategic conversations with my skeptic or atheist clients. Another example I'll share with you, one of my longest clients, he's actually the father of one of my friends, but he's the CEO of this big company. He has a lot of investment portfolios, and one of the things that he likes to do is invest his money. He like buys and sells different types of currency. And depending on the strength of currency, you can make a lot of profit just by moving your money around in different countries. And so one of the things that he likes to do for fun is he'll come for a tarot reading and I'll pull cards to analyze each country and the strengths and weaknesses of their economy. And we'll talk about geopolitics and banking and finance. And the tarot reading isn't like a predictive or a woo-woo thing. It's more of a way for him to creatively think about a complex situation, and think about things in a different way, to think about potentially moving his money around, and seeing things in a different way, because the strength of a country's currency depends on all these factors. That's what kind of makes it interesting. But I'm not telling him what to do with his money. I'm not telling him how to invest. He leaves the tarot reading and he does whatever he wants with his money. But what it is we have a stimulating conversation. And that he uses that in his own life. And so that's what I have found to be really helpful when it comes to dealing with skeptics or atheists. It's just, you don't have to use tarot in a spiritual way. You don't have to use it for spiritual healing or insight or finding your life purpose. You can use it for creative problem solving, for strategic analysis, to challenge your own biases, to challenge your own status quo. And finding a tarot reader that you can have like an intellectual discussion with or an intellectual debate with can be a great way of exploring different options and just thinking outside of the box. I think that's where a lot of my skeptic clients find a lot of value. And for us as tarot readers, like I was saying earlier, it's important for us to meet our clients where they are and not to try to, become preachy or evangelical or try to convince people to believe otherwise. Like, if Richard Dawkins came to me for a tarot reading, first of all, I'd be like so excited. But he's an atheist and he has very staunch beliefs and he has a very specific view of the world. And that view, that perspective, even though it's different than mine, I still find fascinating. I still find interesting. And I still want to bridge the gap between different minds to see how we can problem solve or think about a situation differently. Because each card in a tarot deck represents an archetype. And I've talked about this before, but archetypes are fundamental to the human experience. That means it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what your belief is. You have experienced and understand this archetype or these archetypes because they're fundamental to being human. So being spiritual is not a prerequisite for using tarot. You don't have to have any spiritual beliefs at all. You just have to be human. Being human means you understand archetypes and allegory and symbolism and artwork. And when it comes to creative problem solving or strategic analysis or just creative thinking outside the box, tarot can be a very, very powerful tool to get to do that. A lot of my skeptic clients, they like to be challenged, and not challenged in a combative sense. We don't get into arguments, but they like to be challenged in a way where you question them, where you, how do I say this? Where you question them, you kind of stimulate them in a debate sense to get them to defend their position when it comes to whatever solution that they might have. Like if they're making a choice, let's say a financial investment, or they're making a strategic move in their career, and I pull cards that indicate that that's a bad choice, then instead of telling them like, you're making a bad move, I won't do that. I will challenge them, like I'll play devil's advocate to put them on the spot and get them to defend their position a little bit. It's all under the umbrella of constructive conversation, of intellectual stimulation. It's a way to have conversations and thinking, intellectual exercise, in a way that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to. When you think about the conversations that we have on a daily basis, they actually tend to be more repetitive than you realize. Who do you discuss your plans with? Probably the same group of people. Who gives you advice? Probably the same group of people. How do you come to conclusions or make decisions in your life? There are probably set habitual paths and patterns that you follow, whether consciously or subconsciously. And when you're really faced with maybe a difficult crossroads or something complicated like investing in countries' currencies, for example, something that has a lot of moving parts, it can be really beneficial to use tarot, to use creative thinking in a way to stretch your mind beyond the boundaries of what it's used to, beyond the boundaries of your habits. So I really like to ask my skeptical, non-believing clients questions like, what are some crossroads that you find yourself at this time? Or are there any specific problems in your life that you find challenging? Be more pragmatic, be more practical, be more specifically focused on, like problem solving. Maybe that's the engineer in me. I like to analyze things and solve them, and there's like a rush or a thrill that you get as an engineer when you take a problem and you pick it apart and you put it back together, and you can come up with all these creative ways on how you can solve a problem. I think that's probably what drew me to engineering in the first place. But you can do that with tarot. You can do that with tarot, and it doesn't require any spirituality, any woo-woo, any psychic mumbo jumbo. It's literally just creative, intellectual, brainstorming exercises, problem solving exercises, where my role as the tarot reader is not to preach to my client, but rather ask them questions that challenge them or engage them or push them to think about things differently and draw out that own creative intellect within them. So anyway, do not bother trying to change other people's minds. Do not bother. If someone is a skeptic and they don't believe what you believe, just let it go. There's no need to debate people or try to convince people to believe otherwise. I think one of the scary things that tarot readers have when they're reading for a skeptic is they're afraid of being judged, they're afraid of being criticized, they're afraid of being mocked. And, honestly, that has been a very, very rare thing in my decade plus experience. Most people treat each other with respect when they feel that the respect is mutual. You shouldn't have to worry about that. Just, meet your client where they're at. See if you can adapt the reading to bring them value and challenge in a positive, creative way. The people that see value in the session are going to treat you with respect, and they're going to want to come back. And that really should be our goal as a tarot reader. No matter what your beliefs are, no matter where you are in life, whether it's, coming for spiritual guidance or relationship advice or pragmatic business strategy, whatever it is, my goal as a tarot reader is to provide value to you. And we all have our own intellectual wisdom. We all have our own creative insights. And whether we express that in a spiritual way or in a pragmatic, non-spiritual way, that is all completely valid. Tarot is for everybody. Tarot doesn't require you to have a belief system in order to benefit from it. The only requirement is that you have to be human. That's it. Anyway, that was today's tarot ramble, and I hope it was helpful. Take care, everybody.